Machiavelli, The Art of Power in the Modern World. Niccolò Machiavelli's ideas on power, strategy, and political pragmatism, mainly from the Prince and Discourses on Livy, are still highly relevant in the modern world. His philosophy, often summed up by the phrase, "the ends justify the means," though he never said it exactly that way, provides a framework for leadership, governance, and even corporate strategy today. Machiavelli's assertion that power is not inherently moral but practical remains one of his most controversial yet widely applied principles in modern governance, business, and geopolitics. He argued that rulers should focus on effectiveness rather than moral ideals, as maintaining power and stability often requires actions that might not be seen as virtuous. Modern applications of pragmatic power. 1. Political realism and geopolitics. Foreign policy. Nations act in their strategic interests, often disregarding morality. The U.S. maintaining alliances with authoritarian regimes for stability in the Middle East, or China expanding influence through economic leverage, Belt and Road Initiative, reflects Machiavellian realism. War and diplomacy. Leaders make difficult decisions, such as drone strikes or economic sanctions, balancing human rights concerns with national security. 2. Business and corporate strategy. Market domination. Companies often prioritize profit over ethical concerns. Tech giants like Amazon, Facebook, and Google have been accused of anti-competitive practices, yet these moves are strategic rather than personal. Workforce management. Mass layoffs, price undercutting, and aggressive acquisitions, though unpopular, are often necessary for business survival. 3. Leadership and decision-making. Crisis management. Leaders sometimes make unpopular choices for the greater good. For example, during the COVID-19 pandemic, governments imposed lockdowns, causing economic hardship but saving lives. Public perception versus reality. Politicians and CEOs project a public image of compassion while making tough, pragmatic decisions behind closed doors. The ethical dilemma. Machiavelli's perspective raises the question, should leaders always prioritize practicality over morality? While ethical governance is ideal, history suggests that those who cling too rigidly to moral principles often struggle to maintain power. Machiavelli's famous assertion that it is much safer to be feared than loved, if one cannot be both, highlights a fundamental principle of power. Stability and control often come from commanding respect and instilling caution rather than relying on affection. Why fear is more reliable than love. Machiavelli argued that love is fickle. People's loyalty is conditional and can disappear in times of crisis. Fear, on the other hand, creates obedience because people are more afraid of punishment than they are motivated by gratitude. However, he also warned that a leader should avoid being hated, as hatred breeds rebellion. Modern applications of the fear versus love principle. 1. Political leadership. Authoritarian regimes. Leaders like Vladimir Putin and Xi Jinping maintain power through fear, strict control over media, suppression of dissent, and harsh consequences for opposition. While they may not be widely loved, they ensure compliance. Democratic leaders. Even in democracies, fear plays a role. Leaders use national security threats, e.g., the war on terror, to justify policies that consolidate power and restrict freedoms. 2. Business and corporate leadership. Strict versus charismatic CEOs. Elon Musk, Tesla, X rules with a fear-based approach. Mass firings, extreme work expectations, yet keeps control. Steve Jobs, Apple known for being harsh and demanding, yet built a disciplined, high-achieving workforce. Richard Branson, Virgin Group, takes the opposite approach, leading with charisma and employee-centered values. His success suggests that love-based leadership can work, but is less common in high-stakes industries. 3. Military and law enforcement. Armies and police forces operate on discipline, hierarchy, and the fear of consequences for disobedience. Without strong enforcement, law and order break down. 4. Social influence and branding. Cancel culture and public backlash. Today, companies and celebrities fear social media outrage, which forces them to comply with public expectations, even if it's not what they truly believe. Media and political fear tactics. News outlets and political campaigns often use fear, crime rates, economic collapse, foreign threats, to drive engagement and votes. The balancing act. Fear without hatred. Machiavelli warned that excessive cruelty breeds hatred, leading to rebellion. Leaders who inspire fear must temper it with some level of fairness or competence. The big question: fear, love, or both? Can a leader be both feared and loved? Is leading through love alone sustainable in high-power positions? Have you seen examples where Machiavelli's principle played out in real life? Control the narrative, the power of perception. Machiavelli understood that power is not just about force, it's about perception. He advised rulers to shape how people see them, because perception often outweighs reality. In today's world, controlling the narrative is one of the most powerful tools in politics, business, and society. Modern applications of narrative control. 1. Politics and propaganda. Authoritarian governments. Countries like China and Russia heavily control media, censor dissenting voices, and use state propaganda to shape public opinion. Democratic spin. Even in democracies, politicians use PR teams, media alliances, and strategic messaging to maintain their image. Example: the war on terror narrative justified military actions and surveillance programs. Example: political leaders often reframe economic struggles as temporary sacrifices for long-term gains. 2. Corporate branding and marketing. Tech giants. Apple markets itself as an innovator, despite competitors offering similar technology. Tesla brands itself as a mission-driven company, even while cutting jobs and increasing prices. Crisis management. Companies facing scandals don't admit fault outright. They control the damage through strategic messaging. Example: Facebook, Meta, rebranded after privacy scandals to shift the conversation. 3. Social media and public perception. Influencers and celebrities. Public figures carefully curate their online presence to maintain influence. Cancel culture and reputation management. The fear of public backlash forces individuals and businesses to craft narratives that align with societal expectations. 4. News, media, and misinformation. Agenda-driven reporting. Media outlets often shape stories to fit political or ideological leanings, influencing how people think. Deepfakes and AI manipulation. Modern technology makes it easier than ever to distort reality and control narratives on a massive scale. Why narrative control matters. Machiavelli recognized that people believe what they perceive, not necessarily what is true. Leaders, businesses, and influencers who master narrative control gain immense power. The big question: is this ethical? Is it acceptable for leaders to manipulate perception for stability? Where should we draw the line between strategic messaging and deception? How can individuals protect themselves from being controlled by narratives? Fortune and opportunity. Adaptability is key. Machiavelli recognized that power is shaped by two forces: fortuna, luck, fate, external circumstances, and virtù, skill, adaptability, and strategic action. While fortune plays a role, successful leaders seize opportunities and adapt to changing conditions. In today's world, adaptability remains one of the most crucial traits for leaders in politics, business, and personal success. Modern applications of Machiavelli's view on fortune and adaptability. 1. Political leadership, seizing the right moment. Barack Obama's 2008 campaign. He capitalized on public frustration with the economy and Bush-era policies, presenting himself as the leader of hope and change. Donald Trump's rise in 2016. He recognized the growing populist sentiment and used it to position himself as an anti-establishment figure. Zelensky in Ukraine. A former comedian, he adapted to become a wartime leader, rallying global support against Russia's invasion. 2. Business success, adapting to market shifts. Amazon's evolution. Started as an online bookstore but adapted into the world's biggest e-commerce and cloud computing giant. Netflix's reinvention. Transitioned from DVD rentals to streaming, and then to original content, surviving where Blockbuster failed. Elon Musk's strategic shifts. Tesla, SpaceX, and Neuralink are all based on anticipating future trends and adapting before competitors. 3. Military strategy, winning by adapting. Ukraine's defense strategy. 2022 present. Instead of conventional warfare, Ukraine used guerrilla tactics, drone warfare, and Western alliances to resist a much larger military force. U.S. war tactics. From conventional battles in World War II to counterinsurgency in Iraq and Afghanistan, military success depends on adjusting to new forms of warfare. 4. Technology and AI, the new fortuna. Artificial intelligence boom. Companies that embraced AI early, e.g., OpenAI, Google, Microsoft, are leading the next tech revolution. Social media's rise. Facebook, Meta, quickly adapted to mobile-first experiences, while MySpace and others failed to evolve. Machiavelli's advice: control what you can, adapt to what you can't. Leaders can't control external events, pandemics, economic crashes, wars. But they can control their reaction, adjusting strategies, making bold moves, and shaping outcomes. The big question: is adaptability more important than strategy? Should leaders prioritize flexibility over long-term planning? Can fortune alone create success? Or is it always about those who seize the moment? Have you seen cases where someone failed because they refused to adapt? Machiavellianism in today's world, ethical or necessary? Machiavelli's principles: pragmatism over morality, power through fear, controlling narratives, and adapting to fortune, are widely used in politics, business, and society today. But the question remains: is Machiavellianism a necessary strategy for success, or does it cross ethical boundaries? The case for Machiavellianism as a necessity. Survival in power requires ruthlessness. In politics and business, those who refuse to play the game are often replaced by those who will. Example: CEOs who make difficult decisions, like layoffs, are criticized but keep companies profitable. Example: political leaders who prioritize security over human rights, e.g., counterterrorism laws, maintain stability. Realpolitik versus idealism. Countries often choose strategy over morality in diplomacy. Example: the U.S. supports authoritarian allies for geopolitical stability, Saudi Arabia, Turkey. Example: companies exploit loopholes to avoid taxes, not because it's ethical, but because it's profitable. Fear and control maintain order. Absolute freedom can lead to chaos, and Machiavellian control mechanisms prevent societal breakdown. Example: strict governance in Singapore leads to low crime and economic prosperity. Example: social media censorship controls harmful content but raises concerns about free speech. The ethical dilemma of Machiavellianism. Ends justify the means, but at what cost? Where is the line between necessary pragmatism and outright manipulation? Example: political propaganda ensures stability, but does it suppress democracy? Public trust versus power manipulation. If people recognize they are being controlled, they may lose faith in institutions. Example: scandals in corporate America, like Facebook's data privacy issues, damage trust in big tech. Fear-based leadership can backfire. If a leader is feared but hated, they risk revolt. Example: authoritarian leaders often face uprisings when power weakens, e.g., Arab Spring. Final verdict: a balancing act. A pure Machiavellian approach can lead to tyranny if unchecked. A purely ethical approach may lead to failure if others exploit weaknesses. The most effective leaders find a balance between pragmatism and morality, being strategic while maintaining public trust. What do you think? Can a leader be ethical and still succeed, or does Machiavellianism remain a necessary evil? Have you seen real-world examples where Machiavellian tactics worked or failed?